That to me has been a huge factor in accomplishing goals that I want to achieve. And to me, success is just setting goals and having the feeling of those goals, because sometimes they switch. At the end of the day, it's really what the feeling is. I'm Summer.
And I'm Mike.
And we got married with children.
It's been 12 years since we got this gang together.
And we're still running the rapids of living with a blended family.
And sometimes that is just not easy.
If you're looking for support and tools when it comes to divorce, step-parenting, co-parenting, and giving it your best,
you're in the right place.
We're talking about everything.
You ready to get this party started?
Always. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening.
Depending on when you're actually, I guess, tuning into this fun podcast called the Everything Always Podcast.
Welcome.
I know what time it is now, but we don't have to tell them.
Let's leave it a mystery.
Let's keep it a secret.
All right.
I can tell you that this coffee is very delicious.
I love a good midnight coffee.
All right. So, hey, welcome to another fun episode of the Everything Always Podcast, where Summer and I get to sit around and, tell stories of yesteryear.
Or yesterday.
Or yesterday. Or whatever those things might be. But we're back again, and we're excited to have a little bit of fun today. So a few episodes ago, Summer wanted to do something fun, and she's like, okay, I'm going to make questions, and I'm going to ask you questions that you don't know what they are in advance. And you're going to be put on the spot to answer these questions. So now it's my turn to ask Summer some questions.
Actually, I also took questions that we had received and I made you answer them instead of me.
Well, I can tell you that I didn't do any of that.
Oh, you're just asking me questions from you.
I literally just made up questions. You didn't properly tell me what my mission was. I didn't know I was supposed to take listener questions and then ask you those questions.
I didn't tell you to do anything.
These are my questions.
I didn't even tell you to do any. I didn't.
Well, it was more like, what do you think about this for a topic? And I said, cool, that sounds fun. I'm going to get to ask you questions that you don't know about. Now we're going to put you on the spot. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Great.
Okay, so I think we should jump right into it now that you know the background here. So my first question, it should be pretty easy and a happy one. What are most of the things that make you the happiest about me? Question one. All right, I'm just kidding.
Everyone just clicked like exit.
Everyone's okay.
Stop
I'm off. That's like right there, minute whatever this is. That's when everyone ends, stop, pause, play.
Quit wasting my time, Molders.
Okay, here we go. So I have a few questions. There's not a lot. Don't try to look at them in advance.
I'm not looking.
That's cheating. Okay. When we first started dating, what were your feelings about dating someone with kids? And before we met, what was your ideal situation in regards to, meeting up with somebody?
Oh.
This is a throwback.
Okay, so I'll go with the first part. You might have to, first part of the question, dating somebody with kids.
See, when I ask two-part questions, it's actually like getting two questions in one question.
So, okay, I think a lot of people would say, would tell me, and people will still say these things to somebody who's just been divorced. If you can help it, don't date somebody with kids. I mean, truthfully, because there's a lot of issues and challenges that come up. So it's like you'll eliminate so much drama. But in my mind, I actually liked the idea of somebody who had kids, because then I could be with somebody who understood parenting and who would get parenting, or co-parenting and parenting on your own. Like if you're a single dad, you would get where I'm at being a single mom, or you at least relate to me a little bit more. Plus, then it was like, if it was somebody who didn't have any kids, they might not be as like, oh gosh, you're not available. You're only available like one day a week because you have your kids all the other time. Like I'll never see you, because when you're first dating, you just kind of keep that private.
Yeah.
So, I liked that. I think the age thing was always a factor too. So, is it better to have somebody with older kids? Is it better to have somebody with younger kids? I actually liked the fact that you had younger kids as well, because again, you understood you were kind of at that same age level.
I could tolerate diapers back then.
You could tolerate diapers, which you did have to tolerate diapers. And, like, got to get the kids to bed, or there's, you totally understood
Okay.
those things. So I liked that. It was also, especially, we're talking in terms of you, because the question was, oh no, you said, was it about us dating, or was it when you were looking for somebody?
I would say, well, there was two parts, right? It was like, when we first started dating, what were your feelings about dating someone with kids?
Okay, yeah.
That person being me.
So that's on the kid level.
And before we met, what was your ideal situation? I'm wondering, because I don't remember now if you were like, I don't want to have be with someone with kids. I just want somebody that
I thought I didn't even look to the future of, honestly, in the beginning, and this, I was kind of like, I'm probably just going to date somebody and they'll get it. I didn't really think of the whole, we're going to have a family together, we're going to blend, because I was also just like, having that kind of scarred feeling of divorce where it was just like, do I ever have to get married again? Why should I have to be married? Why? Like, that's not necessary. It was more like, I was so focused on the kids. It was more like, I'd like to date somebody, but I also wasn't just hey, let me just go date. I wanted something meaningful. So it was like a process of figuring it all out. Like, what is the ideal? I do remember thinking the ideal situation is obviously the least amount of drama, right? So the ideal situation was like, well, I hope that, he gets along with the person he co-parents with. I hope that that's a calm situation. I hope that, things like that would be
you actually
the ideal.
Thought about that in advance.
The reason I did is because I'd heard so many stories. Like, I wasn't the first of friends to get divorced. You know what I mean? It was.
And you won't be the last.
Right. It's unfortunate, but it's true. And so I'd heard nightmare stories, and I was like, gosh, I really hope that that's not going to be my situation. Whoever I meet, and on both sides, for whoever I date, I hope that, things are calm. And, we've experienced a ton, and I can tell you, there were calm times, there were periods of calm, there were periods of chaos, there were periods of a lot of the things that we talk about on our podcast.
That's true.
So
how it is now is not necessarily how it will be later.
Yeah. So anyways, that was back then. Of course, I've grown then, but those were my thoughts at that time.
Okay, so still along this same lines, this is kind of like, for people that are in that dating mode, that are trying to figure out their new situation in regards to how things are happening. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to men that are considering dating someone with kids? Any advice on what they should expect? And I think this is more from the perspective for guys that don't have kids of their own.
Right. Oh, guys that don't have kids. Okay.
That are, interested in somebody that has a kid or kids.
So I need to give myself...
What can they expect? And what advice would you give to those guys?
So I'm gonna
another two-part question.
And I'm gonna bring in some marketing skills here, only because when you're talking to somebody or selling a product, you have to have that ideal person that you're talking to, right? So what would I say to this person? So I'm instantly have a person in my mind and what I would say. I was going to go a totally different way because I thought you were going to say a guy who has kids dating somebody with kids like you were, but we're talking about a man who has no kids. He's now going to date or get into a serious relationship with somebody who has kids.
What can he expect?
So what can you expect? And advice that I would give. I can say this, what you can expect is that you're going to have some feelings about the father of her children. You're definitely going to have times where you're like, I wouldn't do it that way. I'd be a much better dad, because you're going to have some ego behind it naturally, and you're going to say, I want to show up for these kids. I want to be there for them. But, and I get that because I've seen that. Again, I'm talking to a specific avatar here. You're going to have some opinions, and you're probably going to get frustrated at times. You're going to have moments where you're like, what exactly is her relationship with this guy? Like, how are, you might question either how friendly they are with each other, how close friends they are, or why they completely don't get along. Like, things like that are going to bug you. And here's what my advice would be. obviously there's going to be different situations, and this is speaking to if that father is still in the picture. As much as you want to go in and start making your own rules and do it your way, and I know it hurts to say these things, but like, as much as you might be a father figure or somebody in their life, you're not the actual father. So you're going to have to, my advice would be to take a step back and just be engaged, but a little bit disengaged from some things. And that actually will help the relationship with the children that are going to be in your life. It's also going to help diffuse drama that could happen with you and your partner, because as much as you're doing it because you care, as much as you bring up topics because you care, like, hey, I think you should do this with your kids, the way I think you should have these rules in place, I think this it can feel like an attack to that person. And I have seen that a lot with men that come in and they're like, I'm the new dad in town. And it's, at the end of the day, you're not. You can be a father figure, and you will probably, by having that step back, by having that little bit of distance and being more like a peer, especially in the beginning, you'll actually foster a closer relationship, and it will naturally start to evolve to where they're coming to you for advice, because there's more of a trust there. You're less of a like dictator person, or like person
Nobody
that's
likes
trying
a
to
dictator.
Nobody likes a dictator.
Nobody.
But you're less of somebody who's trying to enforce all these rules right off the bat, and you're more of somebody that they can talk to. So like if you're out at a, say you're out at a restaurant, you're at somebody's house, you don't need to be the one that says, hey, Timmy, get off that. We always put a Y at the end, right? Hey, Timmy.
Johnny, Timmy,
Stop
Sally.
doing that. Now, for their safety, of course, you can be involved, but let the biological parent enforce those rules. So those are the things that you can expect, and that's my advice.
I mean, you forgot that you can expect that you won't get 100% of that new person's time because they've got kids.
Oh my gosh, you're so right. Well, yeah.
You could expect that there's going to be situations where you're going to have to be patient and let that person, do the parenting thing while, because I think it's the dynamic of not having kids. Number one, when you don't have kids and then you have a kid, things change a lot, right?
Yeah.
So now you're introducing a new relationship with the elements of having kids at the same time, which can be a big change.
Well, and it's true. The time thing is huge, because there are times when it's like, hey, especially if you're a single guy.
It's Friday night. Let's go out.
Let's go out.
Sorry, I can't.
I've got the kids.
Sally can't stay home alone.
Right. Yeah. Those are some
Then
other
it's,
things
well,
to
I want to come
expect.
over. Well, sorry, you can't, because she's not going to get to meet you yet.
Yeah. That's right.
Let's FaceTime.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, that was just another question.
Thank you for finishing.
I knew there were some
You had
things.
to add that in. Well, that's your meal perspective.
Well, you know what?
I thought this was my perspective.
Okay.
I'm just
Okay,
kidding.
that's fine. I get it. Okay, so just kidding. Here, next question. From your experience, what could, I'm going to do this because this isn't from a woman's perspective or a men's perspective. This is either way.
Okay.
From your perspective, or from your experience and from your perspective, what are some of the ways that a partner could support their significant other who is dealing with a co-parenting situation that's high conflict? So it's not about how do you deal when you're in a high conflict co-parenting situation. How can you support your significant other in that situation?
Well, actually, I did a whole episode on this. I think it was just in the last couple of episodes we talked about this.
It's not
So
how to
specific,
deal.
no, exactly, but it's specifically.
It's how can you be a good support for someone that's having to deal with that?
Yes, and I did talk about this briefly, but it's worth talking about again, because like you said, in this situation, so typically what happens is you get fired up with your partner. You get super fired up because you feel like they're being attacked, right? If it's a high conflict situation, and you love them, and you want to, you want to protect them. You also are like, wait a minute, how is this person saying this stuff? That's so mean, and that's not true. You're an awesome mom, you're an awesome dad, or you're whatever, or that's a total lie. How did they blatantly say that? I was there. Things like that. You'll get fired. You will completely get fired up. However, that doesn't help your partner in that situation. And all of a sudden what you've done is you made it your thing too, forgetting that, hey, my partner's like going through this. Like, yes, it's affecting you too, but let's remember they're the ones that are directly being attacked and you don't like seeing it. So the best thing that you can do is not to get fired up with them, but let them know that you support them. But when you get super fired up with them, they can start to feel like now you've brought on another level of anger and frustration and hurt and whatever's going on. Whereas instead, if you can actually be there to support and listen and offer advice when they ask, like, hey, well, so what do you think I should do? What should I say? Or how should I go about this? Then offer that. And then if they are like, sometimes they do want you to get fired up with them, like, sure. And vent and whatever, but just offer what they are needing in that moment and try not to make it about you and what you're going through, because you are going to feel it. And because they're your partner and probably,
don't throw more gasoline on the fire.
Don't throw more gasoline on the fire. Exactly. Don't fuel the fire. There's no need for that. And always be thinking about what's the outcome here. What can you do? And essentially in this situation, when stuff like that is happening, it's to be calm and try to be the calm, rational one, because they're already going to be fired up about it. And then it's like, okay, so what do we need to do here? How can I support you in this? And oftentimes it's just like, I need to vent. I just need to say something. Or oftentimes it's like, how do you think I should address this? Do you think I did something wrong? Do you think, how can I remedy this? So I think it's just, at the end of the day, don't fuel the fire. And if you need to then vent about it yourself because it got you all fired up, go to your trusted safe source, somebody who you can talk to confidentially, who's not going to like spread all of this, because I don't like the gossip thing. But somebody that you can safely, say, here's what's happened, and vent it out.
Okay, cool. That's, I like that.
Hey guys, guess what? We have a new website where you can see all of our podcasts and get easy access to the show notes, everything we talk about on the episodes, and you can even listen to the podcast directly from the site. You can contact us through the site and share your thoughts and questions. Check it out at www.everythingalways.co. That's www.everythingalways.co.
And you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Everything Always Co. We just set it up and we'll be sure to put important announcements there.
And we love that this podcast has been so helpful to so many, and our hope is to share it with even more. So can you help us? Will you take a moment now or after the episode to subscribe to the podcast, write a review, and share it? It would mean the world to us, and it helps us to keep bringing you the best content.
Come on, we appreciate you guys. So what do you say, baby? Back to the episode?
Back to the episode.
Okay, so the next question, this is my next and last question.
Okay.
I think this is going to give all of us a little bit of an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. If you know Summer, she's a pretty dynamic woman, right? She's an entrepreneur. She has a business. She has another podcast that she does about business where she explores people's real feelings behind the scenes, right? Called Backstage Business, which if you ever want to listen to it, it's really good. And she's a great mom. She's an amazing wife. She helps lots of people, and she's involved in all kinds of different things.
You're making me feel very awkward.
I get it. So I'm trying to make you feel awkward. I'm just kidding. I'm actually not. So here's the question. What is your strategy to success in business, family, and relationships? Explain your process and how you make it all work.
Can we press pause so that I can come up with the strategy? Wait, I was supposed to have a strategy all along? Okay. In terms of strategy, I would have to say it's more like there's tools and they're ever evolving. I am a big fan of routine as my husband knows.
That's right.
I really do like to have things scheduled out, and so I have my weeks planned in advance, and I make sure that I know, like, here are my goals for each week, and then I even have the goals for each day, like the things that must get done on those days. And on a bigger level, it'll be a year goal, and then it's a quarterly goal. And I do this in business, and I actually do this with like my personal self as well. So I think how I start, like how I even come to that, is by doing like a big vision dump. One of my favorite books is Vivid Vision by Cameron Herold, who was actually on my Backstage Business podcast. He's got so many incredible books. He's just someone that I super love and follow, and he's amazing. But anyways, he has this whole exercise called Vivid Vision that you do for yourself personally and you do in business. And I've done both. And you really just lay out your ideal, like, it's that whole wave the magic wand. What would it look like if you could wave the magic wand? What does your life look like? What is, when you get up in the morning, what does that look like? What does your business look like? What does your personal relationship look like? What does your friendships, marriage, relationship with your kids? And the whole idea is that you actually are working towards something and you have a vision, because it's so hard to achieve the things we say we want when you don't actually have a clear picture. We often generalize things like, well, I want to be rich, or I want to be fit, or I want to be, but it's like, what does that actually look like? So what is a happy marriage? For me to just say, I have a happy, fulfilling marriage with my husband, it's like specific. We always flirt with each other. We have date nights together. We feel super connected. We love to touch each other. I can talk to him about anything. He respects me. I can talk to him about my business. I can talk to him about our kids, and I just think of like the specific things of, this is how it feels. This is what it looks like. And I think, like, for me, it's been, I always start from like the feeling. Like, success to me is really a feeling, and then you start to put like pictures to it. Does that make sense? So it's like a feeling that I have. It's excitement. It's this, is that. Well, what are the things that bring on those feelings? Okay, it's X, Y, and Z. It's my team feeling super connected at work. It's when we're out to dinner with our family and everybody's in a good mood and we're laughing and telling jokes and sharing memories. It's when Mike surprises me and is like, get ready because I'm taking you on a date. Those are the things, right? So it's like, I want more of those things. So that to me has been a huge factor in accomplishing goals that I want to achieve. And to me, success is just setting goals and having the feeling of those goals, because sometimes they switch. At the end of the day, it's really what the feeling is.
It's an interesting
more than it is the thing. So you might say, I want to get that new car, or I want this, or I want that. But essentially what you want is the feeling of that.
So some of the things that I've just done, routine. You talked about, your vivid vision, which really is simplified as setting goals and knowing what you want to achieve. Mm-hmm. Because it's like that whole saying, right? It's like you can be a super fast race car and you can go really fast, but if you don't know your destination, you're going fast nowhere.
Right,
So,
exactly.
I think that's good. You talk about the feeling of how you want, like the feeling that you want, mm-hmm. which I think is really going to, like, can you picture yourself in the situation and all of the things, business-wise, relationship-wise, family-wise, all of those things, which I think is good. That kind of is in that sphere of, setting goals, knowing what you want.
Yeah.
And there are a few other things that I think that you didn't really,
well,
you didn't tap into, which I'll mention. I know what they are. It's super hard work, being organized, sometimes making priorities, making the thing that you're trying to achieve, whether it's work or more family or whatever, making that a priority. If it's like, this is time that we've scheduled to do family stuff,
no one gets to interfere.
The other things will not get to interfere. The same way, it's like, this is dedicated work time. Like, I'm not gonna skip off and go do something else. Like,
And that honestly goes. That's that's kind of when I plan out my week, those things are blocked. So it's like this stuff is blocked, and an emergency will take me out of that, or a trip planned somewhere will take me out of that. However, for the most part, I will have like, these are the times that I answer emails. These are the times on my calendar that people can book meetings or a podcast interview or whatever, but they're blocked out. It's not just like, hey, it's open, anybody can do this. And that really, what that helps with the organization is, in life in general, whether you're a stepmom, a mom, in a blended family or not, if you're just a single person, just you, life is busy, right? If you're working, if whatever, life gets busy. And especially for us with so many things going on, there's chaos can happen in a second. And so to have that time blocked and to have things organized and know, okay, this is the day that we're going to do, this is the day we're going to clean out the garage. This is the day that we're going to have just you and me time. This is the time for family stuff. This is the time for this work project that I need to focus on. So like, it's true, because Mike sometimes will say, hey, can you drive me here? Or can you do this? Or can you do that? And I've gotten pretty firm on boundaries where I'm just like, I have to focus. I block this time to focus on this work project, and I have to do it. And the thing is like, there's that whole, you have to learn how to say no and be comfortable with saying no. And I've probably talked about this with stepmoms, and I've had stepmoms on the show that talk about this, because you tend to say yes to too much, and now you're doing all these things that you're not doing the other things that were important to you. And when you say yes to too many people, whenever you say yes to something, you're always saying no to something else.
That's a really interesting way to look at it.
But it's true. So if I say yes to you to do something, I'm saying no to something that I deemed as a priority. At the same time, if you say yes to a last minute client call, right? And you're like, yep, I'll come over and meet with you, but you had a date with me, you're saying yes to them, but now you're saying no to me. Or if you say yes to, and it might be okay. Sometimes that's okay. But it's always like thinking about being really protective of your time, and always, coming back to boundaries are like a big thing with me, and organizing that time.
Well, and commitments.
Putting boundaries,
right?
yeah, and commitments. So, if you're saying yes to something, but in the back of your mind, you're like, that's going to be an easy thing to reschedule if I need to, don't say yes to it at all. Say yes to it when you know you can actually commit to it.
I like that. I think we'll get through one episode without talking about the 4 agreements.
Always do your best. The 4th agreement. I will get it in.
Nice. All right. Well, that for me, I like your answer, and it's true. I mean, Summer, you're pretty freaking awesome. That's why. That's why we're married.
You must be pretty awesome too. Well, you know what? I'm a work in progress, always, as we all are, and true. I appreciate you saying that.
Well, all right. This has been fun, and I think we'll do this again. I kind of like the questions that you're like, I don't know what he's going to ask. And next time I'll try to find some more that are a little bit more embarrassing.
Do you know what I think would be interesting, actually? What I would like to do is bring people in a little bit more with certain situations in our life, and just be like, okay, let's go back and forth. Hey, this happened this week with, one of our kids. What did you think about that? How do you think we handled it?
Our kids?
Are you ready to go deeper with that?
You want to bring them in? I think
they can come in, or just you and me are talking about something that happened with them, obviously with their permission. Hey, can we talk about that awful thing? No, I'm just kidding.
For sure.
All right. Well, thanks for the interview. Thanks for having me, Michael.
It was fun. Absolutely. And thanks for listening. And like we always say, thanks for listening to the Everything Always podcast. Don't forget to go to that platform that you like to listen to your podcasts on. Leave a review. Share with a friend. We'd really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for listening. And we like to say, if you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone you love, and be bold enough to share it with someone you don't. See you next time.